Hogan was arrested during a raid of the safe house he was occupying in Mars of Anfield on Monday the 12th of May 1919. Hogan, upon hearing of the impending police raid, decided to vacate the safe house and attempted to escape across nearby fields. Hogan had little knowledge of the details of the police raid, which led him to run straight into RIC officers who captured Hogan and brought him to the nearby RIC barracks of Rosskeen, where he would be held until his transfer to Thurles. Sean Tracy, a leading Republican figure, decided to organise the rescue of Hogan. Ideally, rescuing Hogan while in transit was the option most likely to succeed, as breaking him out of an RIC barracks had a high possibility of incurring high death rates, and if RIC officers did manage to transfer Hogan to one of the larger prisons, his escape would be near impossible. Tracy had received information that Hogan had been transferred from Rosskeen to Thurles RIC barracks. Tracy knew that anybody held in Thurles barracks were to be transferred to Cork jail, and in most cases were transferred by train. There were only 2 trains travelling from Dublin to Cork via Thurles. This left Tracy and his comrades Seamus Robinson and Dan Breen in the dilemma of where was the best place to carry out the rescue and the issue of which train Hogan would have been transported on. Bridget Fitzpatrick and Mrs. McCarthy attempted to gain details on Hogan's transfer, as they used to bring food and clothing to RIC members in Thurles barracks. They attained that Hogan was to be transferred on the 6 o'clock train from Thurles to Cork. Emly was the original destination chosen for the rescue, but it was later changed to Knocklong, as there was no RIC barracks nearby, which would prevent RIC support from hindering the rescue. 5 men from the Galbally branch of the IRA were drafted in to help with the rescue mission: James Scanlon, Sean Lynch, Ned Foley, Ned O'Brien, and his younger brother, John Joe O'Brien, who later gave a witness statement of the events at Knocklong. Lynch, Foley, Scanlon, and J.J. O'Brien were sent to board the train Hogan was believed to be on at Emly Station, and to locate his position on the train as well as the size of the party accompanying him. Tracy split his party in half with him and Ned O'Brien, the men to orchestrate the rescue, while Robinson and Breen were to cover the exit and ensure the train did not leave the station until the rescue was complete. The Galbally men established that Hogan was in the first carriage behind the engine, surrounded by 4 RIC officers. Only one of the Galbally men was armed with a revolver. While Tracy and Ned O'Brien both had revolvers, the men feared that military men and police may be on the train, and if so, they would be severely outarmed. The train travelling from Cork to Dublin arrived at 7:45, with the train travelling from Dublin to Cork was expected to arrive at Knocklong at 8 p.m. When the train did pull into Knocklong, J.J. O'Brien led Tracy and his brother Ned to the carriage where Hogan was situated. Tracy and O'Brien caught the accompanying RIC officers by surprise, leading the rescue party to believe that the rescue may happen with no bloodshed. This disillusioned idea quickly vanished when RIC officer Michael Enright put his gun to Hogan, causing both Tracy and Ned O'Brien to fire shots into the chest of Enright, causing his instant death. In a bid to condemn the actions of the rebels during the rescue of Hogan, British reports claimed that the IRA members opened fire without reason, disregarding the actions of Enright. Tracy also entered into an altercation with Sergeant Wallace, who was seated opposite Hogan. The 2 battled for control of Wallace's revolver. The scuffle resulted in Tracy taking a near-fatal shot to the lower lung before he managed to overpower Wallace and fire 2 shots into his midriff, resulting in his death days later. Another RIC officer, O'Reilly, managed to work his way out onto the platform, where he managed to obtain a rifle, enabling him to fire shots at the carriage with little regard for civilians or IRA members alike. Breen, in an attempt to stop Wallace, began to fire upon him, and in their engagement Breen was injured in the lung and shoulder. By firing on O'Reilly, Breen managed to draw O'Reilly's attention from the men in the carriage, enabling Ned Foley and Sean Lynch to get Hogan to David Byrne's butchers, where the cuffs were cut off with a butcher's lever. The rescue wasn't as bloodless as they had hoped, but a success nonetheless, which undoubtedly affected the events in the years to come. A lot of the sources wrote about this incident were written long after the event, such as witness statements and Dan Breen's autobiography, My Fight for Irish Freedom. This means that a lot of events may be exaggerated, such as in Dr. David Carney's witness statement, where he states, "I feel that records were broken by us in our getaway," which is always a problem with history which is told from memory. Any newspapers reporting on the incident focused mainly on the shooting of the RIC officers and the death of Enright and Wallace, and gave very little information on the men involved in the rescue.